Hopefully everybody can see my front page of my screen. Okay, thank you for the nonverbals. Appreciate that. We'll go right ahead and launch in. I just want it to be known that, as many of you know, my second phase of my extension career, first phase being 4-H'er, second phase was being IPM Scout. I can still identify several different types of aphids from that fine IPM training. I wanted to show you my 2 new garden pests. No microscope needed for either one of these. I'm sure, like many of you, you spent the last few weeks putting in all your garden because we have a finite growing season. And I did the same thing, and I have large garden pests now who don't really care about what I've put in. And the turtle actually was this morning when I walked out. I was wondering what the cat was hunting. You can see the little cat nose in the window. I was wondering what the cat was hunting, and I didn't see it until I went out, and I was like, gosh darn, turtle has really disrupted a good part of my garden, and thank goodness I haven't mulched yet. So I hope you're having better garden success than I am. And yeah, we'll see how the summer goes, but I complain a lot, but it's fun to have the wildlife out your window. Today, we do have a lot to cover. It's been a few weeks. A lot of updates, some other FYIs, and then we do have Cindy and Lynn joining us from the communications and marketing team to talk about some accessibility things that we need to be aware of as we move forward with all the ways we're getting information out right now. So let's start with congratulations. And this is the slide that you would apologize for if you were actually projecting it, because the font is so small. But I figure you can all read it on your computer screens. And guess what? We have a lot to celebrate in the last month or so in extension. First of all, there is a new doctor in the house. Big shout out to Christy Willette. I loved the picture that she sent me for this. Christy did finish up her PhD this spring. I was honored to be a part of her graduate committee. It was a joy to be a part of. Big congratulations to Dr. Willette. I think that's just awesome. And I love it too. It's just an example that we practice what we preach. Extension is all about lifelong learning. And I feel like extensionists, people within extension, are the first to participate in learning experiences. We like to learn. And so again, Christy, congratulations. I was able to participate in the final session of the Young Professionals Institute that the University of Maine at Presque Isle puts on. And our new faculty member, Dr. B. Chim, actually participated in the Young Professionals Institute. And they had their closing session last week. And it was really fun to hear their projects and to be a part of that process. So congratulations, B. At the end of this month, Dr. Deborah Cantor over in Somerset County will retire from Extension, and we wish her all the best in her retirement and thank her for all that she's done for the 4-H program and for the people in Somerset County and beyond. Last week, the Extension faculty group announced their Extension faculty awards for 2021. Jim Dill seems to be sweeping all the categories this year. We appreciate Dr. Dill and all his efforts. He was awarded the Program Leadership Award, Dr. Lily Calderwood, the Applied Research Award, and Dr. Colt Knight, the Creative Programming Award. So congratulations to all of them on their achievements. And then big shout out to our faculty and staff in our 4-H program. We had 4 awards that were notified last week at the regional level, and these awards will now go on to be considered for the national level awards. And so again, our Northeast Award winners, you'll see them: excellence in volunteerism, excellence in urban programming, excellence in geospatial programming, and the Communicator Award. Again, this is incredible, folks. I think it shouldn't be lost. We know we do good work, but to get these types of recognitions certainly is a testament to the great work that all of you do, or as I like to say in the South, all y'all do. And so congratulations. This was a fun slide to put together when we start thinking about celebrating all the achievements. You know, I sent the email out on Friday. I kind of lost track of last week. And we haven't had a good Dolly Parton quote in a while. And I just like this because I feel like, as I've mentioned before, I chose to frame COVID as the longest hurricane on record, just because it reminded me at the beginning of dealing with Florida hurricanes, and it was just the hurricane that kept on going. Feel like we are coming out of COVID, so we are coming out of this storm, and I do feel like we're going to be stronger. We are stronger for it. We've learned a lot, we've done a lot, and we're going to move forward stronger for the blood, sweat, and tears of the last now year and almost a half. And so there's nothing really new in this slide than what I gave you all on Friday. I just wanted to touch base with it. And certainly at the end, we'll have time for questions as well, because I know a few of them came up even on Friday afternoon after I sent the message. The biggest thing is, number one, we are thankful that the HOCs they just went away. I spoke with Bob Norman with the EOC, Humane EOC, about 2 weeks ago, and he's like, yep, we're not following HOCs anymore. Okay, good to know. Again, what we are envisioning is we're following Humane's communication, in that we're going to continue to operate as we have been, following the new guidance, with the thought that when the fall semester begins, and I put the date in here, that we will return to pre-COVID normal. And pre-COVID normal was, what did the fall of 2019 look like? And so by August 30th, and that's the first day of the fall semester, I would expect that majority of folks will be back in the offices. I know that there are still questions about working remotely versus in person. Those are still being worked out at the union level, at the HR level. I don't have any specifics in that regard. I'm sure we will get some specifics as the summer marches on. We're still limiting conference rooms. I don't think anybody's ready to just prop the door wide open and say, everybody come in. We have no limits as far as occupancy in our conference rooms, in our county offices, but we'd still like to limit their use to extension-related groups and programs. The only asterisk that I would say to that is, in youth programs, if you are doing indoor youth programs, there still is a 3-foot social distance. And again, that's coming from the CDC requirements that we're following. And again, the big thing is, and I know this is hard, and I get it, is that Humane is still requiring face masks inside, unless you're in your office by yourself. And that is true if you're traveling on Humane business. And I'll just give the example. I'm supposed to go to Augusta on Thursday for a non-University of Maine meeting. If I go to that meeting in person, then I will have to wear my face mask, at the meeting, because I'm representing Humane. So that's just a reminder. I think we've got the testing pretty much figured out. I know there's been some lingering questions with testing, and Fran, thank you so much for handling all those questions. Travel right now, you are to be approved if you are doing travel outside of the state of Maine, but still domestically. International travel is still kind of a question mark. If you do have international travel needs, just email me directly and copy your supervisor. But domestic travel outside of the state of Maine still needs my approval. And I've been working with people on a case-by-case basis on that. After July 1, and I've said this to a few folks, after July 1, it's just business as usual. You won't need any additional approvals for domestic travel. So if it can wait, to buy a ticket, to book the hotel room, to, pay the conference registration, then I've been telling people, hold off, because after July 1, you're just going to be able to do it as you have done it in the past. But if you need to book things early, just let me know, and I'll type up an approval email that you will then submit. I mentioned face masks. Again, summer programs, I did put the food piece in my email on Friday. Pretty much it's still, if you are doing a summer program and having a food option, it still needs to be somewhat of a grab and go, no buffets or shared ketchup bottles, coffee stations, those type of things. Again, group sizes, there's really no stipulations anymore on group sizes. We did update all the guidance and checklists, and they are on the website. I actually have an email that is ready to schedule send. It's going to hit your inboxes at 4 o'clock, and it's going to have all that I've mentioned in this extension connections with the link, so you don't have to go hunt for a link. But we have updated all our checklists. We still are asking for people to keep track of, contact tracing forms, who is at your program. Again, I think we lose sight that we are still in the midst of a global pandemic, and there are certainly COVID outbreaks that are happening. So we are going to have to keep track of people who are at our programs in case there is an incident or something like that, and we need to contact people. So that's pretty much what I have as far as updated guidance. And again, we should have some time at the end if you have some specific questions. I mentioned this during my last extension connection. Lisa Phelps and I are going to be participating in the research learning experience opportunity for first year and second year students this summer who are coming to campus, and it's for them to learn about the wonderful world of extension. We actually kind of played on Instagram, thinking about everybody's pictures of food and gardens and plants. So that's why we titled our research learning experience Explore Insta Extension, because it's playing off Instagram. On the right of the screen, you'll see what the students see in the catalog. And again, we've had several folks reach out to us that want to participate in working with some students this fall. Again, I put this in the email that's going to hit your inbox at 4 o'clock. If you do have some interest, we're asking that you indicate that interest just for our planning purposes, and the link to the form will be in your email. So looking forward to hopefully having some students that want to participate. We also realize that there are some very unique RLE experiences available. There is about 30 of them. Dr. Farini Mundi is actually teaching one on math. It'll be interesting to see if that fills up. There's also some very interesting titles and opportunities. There's about 5 that I would like to take if we were able to do them. So if you want some fun, I should put the link of the whole RLEs just so you can see the ones that are out there. I mentioned during the May Extension Connections, again, the next phase of our roadmap is our steering committee. They're going to steer us to where we're going. Big shout out and thank you to the group that volunteered. Please know, again, I've mentioned this before, most days my email box hovers at around 400 or so emails. So there is a possibility that I may have missed yours if you did volunteer to be a part of this. If you did, would you please email me today? I promise you I will keep an eagle eye out for it. But really appreciate this group that stepped forward to participate. And again, really thankful that it shows a cross-section of extension, and really look forward to working with this group as we think about how do we begin to identify those ideas and recommendations to implement either now or within the next year or further down the road. So thank you to them. We will be meeting, as I mentioned, on a monthly basis. We're working on getting those scheduled. So I will have a roadmap committee or a steering committee roadmap update during every extension connections so you can see our progress. So in May, I wanted to give you just a little bit of a debrief on what a busy month it was. I do want to share this. This picture is from the employee recognition ceremony that happened out on the mall. It was one of our first in-person events after the new guidance came out. This is Laura Wilson accepting her Outstanding Professional Award from Dr. Farini Mundi. Everybody is masked. At some point in time, I will get the official photographs from the UMaine photographer, because you will see the signage and Laura's fan club that joined her for this award. So again, congratulations, Laura. It was great to see people outside, and it was great to have the time with the president, who again, very engaged, wanted to know how 4-H was going this summer, how the camps were going this summer. And so it was great. It was a great Friday morning. Also really appreciate the folks who picked up those years of service awards, which again, just is mind-boggling when you think of the collective years of service represented in Extension. So amazing morning, really appreciative of everybody who was recognized. We are thankfully done with the 4 dean searches. It was unprecedented to try to do 4 dean searches at one time in one university. I think it's important, not only did I chair one of them, I met with every candidate in all the other dean searches. I didn't miss one of those. And so that was 14 candidate conversations. It was a lot. And I'm thankful we have one official dean. The College of Education and Human Development dean was announced last week. I think she's going to be phenomenal. She has some certainly some knowledge about 4-H and about some of our K through 12 initiatives, and she's looking forward to learning more. My search, I call it my search because it was my search, in the Graduate School of Business dean, that announcement I'm hoping will come out officially. The offer has been made and accepted. It's very exciting. It was actually my #1 candidate from the start, and I don't feel like I actually unduly swayed the committee. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to further expand our connections with the Graduate Business School. And I know we're all waiting for the NSFA search. I'm hopeful that we will get an announcement on that this week. And then the Honors College is the other one. And I believe there has been an offer made and accepted. We're just waiting for the formal announcement. So very exciting. It's going to change. It's going to change the university to have 4 new leadership positions. I just want to remind folks, I started in May of 2019. So as we all know, I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary, and I now introduce myself in dean's meetings or in administrator meetings as a senior dean. I just have given myself that title. I feel like it's true because we got 4 newbies. I'm now a senior dean. That is fantastic. Dana Humphrey just laughs at me, by the way, because he really is a senior dean. I'm just, trying to convince people otherwise. So there, obviously, the COVID changes coming down in May were fast and furious. We spent a lot of time in conversations of what this all looks like. I feel like we've got our feet under us in those. There's a huge amount of opportunities happening at the federal and state levels, as you all hear about the governor's proposals on this and that, and federal funding initiatives. We're a part of all of those. We may have some exciting news to share in the next couple of weeks about some of those that may actually come to reality. And if they do, huge implications for Extension, and we're excited about those. The 4-H Foundation had their spring meeting in May. Really appreciate the work of that volunteer board and all that they give to the state. The Natural and Working Lands group of the climate change is still happening. We reconvened. We hadn't met in about 6 months. And again, that's climate change is seemingly every day in the news, and certainly changing a lot of what's happening here at the university, a lot of focus and research and whatnot. Many of you are participating. There is a new task force. I think I mentioned this, looking at really formalizing the University of Maine at Machias being a regional campus of the University of Maine. I'm on the task force, and we have several members of Extension that are on subcommittees of the task force. Really appreciate folks stepping up. I know nobody's got bandwidth right now. This is a short duration. Our final report is due to the president, I believe, at the end of August, early September. And again, we have a really strong presence in Washington County. I mean, we have obviously our Extension office and the great work that folks who work out of there are doing. We have our 4-H camp at Greenland Point. We certainly have our faculty working at Blueberry Hill Farm, the Ag Experiment Station. So again, this is going to be important to us as well. Journal of Extension, I am about ready to turn my seat over to another representative. But I just want to remind you all that the journal is out there. We actually just marched it through a whole big change in how it functions, where it's located. And so if you had submitted something and it took a little while, there was a lot of transition happening. Working on the key performance indicators for the University of Maine. Extension is going to have specific key performance indicators that will sit on the front page of this website at the University of Maine. So every time that you may or may not say not so nice words about your reporting, it matters because it's going to be on the front page of a University of Maine website. Stay tuned for more of that. Obviously, I mentioned the University of Maine and Machias Task Force. And then we're very excited, really thankful to Rick Kersbergen and the search committee for our dairy specialist. We have some stellar candidates that we're going to get ready to interview for those positions. So lots of good things happening. Some other things for your radar screen. I swear I don't take a breath, but I'm trying to wrap up by 3:30 so we can get our special guests time. Many of you will remember Shirley Hager. She is retired from Extension, and in her retirement has written a book, The Gatherings, Reimagining Indigenous Settler Relations, which I think is phenomenal. We are going to host a virtual book club with this book, and Shirley is going to join us for the last session. There will be an email coming out in the next week or two if you want to participate. With this one, we are going to have to limit the participation to about 25, I think Fran said. And so, again, I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. If you wanted to learn more about the Indigenous peoples here in the state of Maine, I think this is a great opportunity to do so. I mentioned this probably 2 Extension Connections ago. I want to kick off a Lunch and Learn series. Again, I know people are all busy, but what my plan is on the 3rd Friday of each month, probably starting around 11:30 and going till about 12:15, so it's not even going to take a full hour. Would love to bring in some folks from the university, from outside the university, that just want to share a project, share an idea, share what they are doing, just to increase collaborations and connections, and just to increase, visibility and promote networking. So with that, our first Lunch and Learn will be on Friday, June 18th. I plan on recording these and making them available. So if you're not able to join us during that time, you can certainly go back and watch it whenever you have the time. If you have some ideas of people that you think would be great speakers that would be, excuse me, interesting to Extension, feel free to forward them to me. Or if you have any ideas about this series. What I like to try to do is we'll try this for about 6 months to see, if people are interested, if we get good participation. If they work, great, we'll continue. And if we don't get that great of a commitment from the organization, we'll move on to something else. But I thought this was just another great way of just bringing more people to you all to share what they're doing or to share opportunities to connect. And the other thing I wanted to put on your radar screen is many of you are involved in USDA grant funding projects, typically through NIFA. And in the language of those grant projects, they talk about centers of excellence and that they're given priority considerations if you are a center of excellence. I appreciate Dick reached out to the VPR's office, and Saul Allen, who has joined us before for Extension Connections. Saul and Danielle O'Neill have developed a template if you are interested in possibly putting together a proposal to become a center of excellence, to have this designation if you are then interested in applying for some of these grant monies. Again, that template, it will be in my email that will hit your inbox at 4 o'clock. I just wanted to put this on your radar screen. So with that, and I'm a few minutes ahead of schedule, which is great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen after you all read this quote. I'm not going to read it to you, but I think it's important, when you think about how much content we have put up on the internet in this last, 15 months. We already had a great deal of content up already, but then through COVID and everything going virtual, and again, all the ways that people connect with us, if you think about it, through fact sheets and bulletins and online trainings and social media and our websites, all of the things, and then you layer on the discussions that we've been having about diversity, equity, and oh, by the way, inclusion. How are we sure that we are able to include everybody who would like to receive our information? And so that's why I think it's really important to have this conversation. I don't want this to seem like, oh, and I get it, don't roll your eyes and be like, it's another one thing we have to think about. We're just trying to get the stuff out there. But I think we really need to be really careful and thoughtful about, again, are we reaching everybody who would like to receive our information? And so I'd love to stop sharing my screen um, and turn the floor over to Cindy Eves Thomas and Lynn Holland from our Stellar Communications and Marketing team, who are going to talk about accessibility and, again, just remind folks of what we need to be doing. So with that, Cindy and Lynn, happy to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. We really appreciate you giving Lynn and me this opportunity to talk a little bit about extensions, websites, and social media and how to make those accessible. That quote from Steve Krug was great. It really does point out that a little bit of effort on our part can make such a big difference in somebody else's life. Our end of it is really pretty simple. And so that's what we want to take you through today, are 5 simple steps we can take to make our site, all of our digital media, accessible. And in light of the upcoming civil rights audit in 2022, it is important to capture those civil rights efforts, and those include the things that we do to make our website accessible. Just please know this is a very quick overview. We're not taking a lot of time today. It's for awareness purposes, and that Lynn and I are available to go into greater detail with everybody, anybody that's interested. When referring to websites and social media, accessibility does mean that we want to ensure that all users can access our online resources, including users who rely on assistive technologies like screen readers to help them browse the web. This is a legal issue. We do need to comply with ADA accessibility laws, but it's also the right thing to do, and it does benefit all users. It is easy, and it doesn't need to take a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on 4 simple steps that you can take when designing web pages that'll take care of the majority of your accessibility issues. Then Lynn will provide some guidance for those of you who manage social media accounts. And to illustrate my points, I'm going to share my screen and show you some resources that we have on Plugged In. And I'll put a bunch of links in the chat box first. We'll make sure that these get put up on the Connections website as well. So let me share my screen. This checklist is on Plugged In, and it is a short thing that is kind of a decision tree that will lead you through with some questions about what you should be paying attention to on your web page to help make them ADA compliant. A lot of stuff is already done for you in the background. The web office takes care of that, but these are several small things you can do that that will ensure that the page is compliant. And the first one is about adding what's called alternative language tags to your images. We have a page about that that tells how to do that step by step, and we show an example here of an image and what that alt tag might read. It would be something like a 10-word or less literal description of what's in the photo. In this case, it's Kids Can Grow youth participant is proudly showing her square-foot garden, raised bed garden. So just a quick, simple thing. When you put that in there, a person that is relying on a screen reader, when their reader gets to that image on your page, it will read out that description that you put in there, providing for them a comparable experience to what a sighted viewer sees. Now, if you have an image that has text on it, embedded into it, you're responsible for making sure that text gets on the page somewhere else as well. It can either be put in that alt tag, or if it gets kind of long, like this pie chart might be, you should put that information elsewhere on your page. The next thing I want to just briefly touch on are PDFs. Generally, we don't encourage a lot of PDFs uploaded to our site because repeated studies have shown that the average, the vast majority of users do not like to download PDFs. They would much rather click on a regular web page, and that works out well for accessibility as well. If you do have to put up a PDF though, then we have to make sure that it is accessible, or we have to provide a text-based alternative that can be used by things like screen readers. What that means is testing the PDF with Acrobat Pro, Adobe Acrobat Pro, or contacting me, and I'll be happy to test it for you. And then we can discuss whether or not it passed, what we could do to make it pass, and come into compliance, and what an alternative might be for that particular page. Some PDFs can get very complicated, and so we often do end up putting up an alternative text web page for that. Tables are another problem that can cause some accessibility problems. We have some step-by-step instructions on how to make your tables accessible on the web. We should be using tables only for tabular data. You should not be using tables to format your pages. If you're trying to put up a schedule for a conference or something, there are other ways you can organize that information rather than put it in a table. Because when we do create a table, we have to make sure we tag the header rows so that the screen reader knows what information in the columns below it go with which headers. Imagine looking at a table like this one and hearing, you're not actually looking at it, you're hearing a screen reader read it to you from top to bottom, left to right, with no association between those header columns and what's in the data below that. It would just be a big confusion without those tags in there. These can be very complicated as well to put together. I'm happy to look over any tables you have, work with you to make sure that they are compliant. I'm happy to teach you how to do it, or you can read through these instructions and see how far along you can get with that. However you want to do it, but tables are something we do need to keep an eye on to make sure that they're accessible. And the last thing I'm going to point out before I hand this over to Lynn is under our 12 best practices for UMaine Extension webmasters, number 4 is using meaningful words and phrases in your links. There are lots of good reasons to do that. Some of it has to do with search engine optimization, but as far as accessibility, the reason to spell out those links in a meaningful phrase is because a lot of people who use screen readers, they set their screen reader to read their links first. So they don't have to listen to the entire page to find where they want to go to. Much as we would scan, somebody that's sighted would scan a page and just look for the links and see what's there. So if you're putting in links, they're all click here type links throughout your page, what that screen reader is going to read to the person listening is click here, click here, click here, and they won't have any idea of where that link is going to go. If you spell out the URL, https:// extension, blah, 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 the screen reader will read that out too, and it could become very tedious listening to a bunch of those links spelled out that way, listening for the end piece of that phrase, that URL, to see if that is indeed where you want to go. It's just so much easier for both for sighted and for people who rely on screen readers to see the link being like a meaningful phrase, like we've got Maine Harvest for Hunger here, which clearly is going to lead to the Maine Harvest for Hunger website. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn. I'm going to keep sharing my screen because I'm going to show her slides. And Lynn, let me know when you want me to move ahead with your slides.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. So I'm going to only be talking about 2 very broad principles when it comes to social media today. So I'm going to keep it short. The first one I'm calling Postcards from the Edge. It's summertime, people are going on vacation finally, and postcards are something that's we're all familiar with. Next slide, please. The problem with postcards is you have to turn them over to see the message. It's a pretty picture, and sometimes there's some really interesting things on there. But if you really want to get the message meant for you, you have to turn it over. Next slide, please. Some graphics on Facebook are just like that for a vision impaired person. But the problem is when you turn it over, the other side is blank. Next slide. Ooh, my graphic did not show up on that, Cindy. I wonder what's going on with that.
I don't know. Is it the same graphic you have on the next slide?
Yeah, so just picture in your mind a graphic there with lots of words on it, lots of great information. And it's from a local organization that is doing lead testing in the soil. And it's a really pretty picture and a lot of great info. Next slide. The problem is when you test it for accessibility, the alternative text is completely empty. So someone using a screen reader basically sees an empty page or hears an empty page. All of that information is completely lost. And I know a lot of you also like to put in phone numbers, contact information, and websites into some of these postcard-like postings on, say, Instagram or Facebook. But the problem is, unless it's also either in the text that's in the alternative text or in the caption or your post itself, nobody's going to see that if they're using a screen reader. Now, one of the things I like to tell people about alternative text and accessibility is that most of the new media platforms are not focused on this. They don't necessarily make it easy. Certainly not easy as having a plugged in page for how to do this. So if you're confused on what people are actually seeing when you post something on social media, please feel free to give me a call and we can talk about it. We can test something just to see what it actually looks like to the folks that you're trying to talk to. A good rule of thumb, next slide, please, is to use pictures as pictures. And I like to call pictures like the most important component of a post because most people are visual. Use your text as text. Tell your story in the post itself. And if you do put text with a picture or on a picture in what effectively is a JPEG or a PNG, put that in your post text as well and put it in the alt text. Because if you don't, all your hard work creating that really great graphic is going to be a waste of time when it comes to people that are visually impaired. And that doesn't just go for people who are using screen readers. If you think about it, our average Facebook viewer is over the age of 50. And a lot of those folks, myself included, sometimes have a hard time reading tiny text, especially if I'm looking at it on my phone. So if you think about, say, your favorite aunt or grandmother or grandfather, or just a good old friend of yours looking at this, make sure that whatever is on that graphic is something that they not only can read, but also that they won't have to curse to be able to get to read it. Next graphic, please. Now I'd like to make a case for camel case. And some of you have heard of this already. And I think, the graphic of the camel tells you exactly what we're talking about here. And camel case, for you really techie people, has been around forever as part of programming language. But here I'm talking about it primarily in the area of social media. And below the case for camel case is an example of camel case, because we all see things differently. So that is done in camel case. That's when there's no spaces between the words, but each new word is capitalized. And you're probably most familiar with this when it comes to hashtags. Next slide. We've all seen these games, whether it's on Facebook or somewhere else, where you're challenged to read something that isn't really written correctly, but you can still read it because most of us have the visual acuity to do that. However, if you've got any kind of vision problems, your brain may not be able to make those switches. Whereas it says your, well, actually it's your is spelled wrong and brain is actually Brian. Your brain is used to this and you've got great eyesight. So it just goes really easily. Next slide, please. And generally speaking, the human mind can make that leap, but a computer screen reader can't. Whatever you put down is what that screen reader will read. And they're going to be very simplistic about that reading of it. And this is where I like to tell people, if you really want to get a lot of views, make a spelling error, because you're going to get a lot of people noticing that spelling error. The computer screen reader will not be one of those folks that will point out your spelling error. It's going to read it exactly as you put it down. Next slide, please. So capital letters are your friend. Here's an example that I think should ring true for a lot of us. The first one is where it's not done in camel case. So 4H, we all know, is a capital H. Of course it is. But when that screen reader reads that, it's going to say, for his fun. However, if you do it in camel case, where even the word is capitalized, it's going to come out as 4H is fun. Now, there are some really great bloopers out there, and most of them I could not put on a slide because, well, I just couldn't and have it be an educational opportunity. So let's just say, be very careful about what you put in a hashtag. First of all, not just because you got to make sure where it's pointing to, but also what it actually is going to sound like. And the real bonus with camel case, it's going to make your post and that hashtag way easier to read for the people looking at your post. For more information about social media accessibility and on making social media accessible, New York University had a really good, very simple, direct site. And it's included in the list that Cindy's going to share. And I really encourage you to take a look at your social media differently and as you go forward, because as more and more of us are spending time on social media and creating these posts, you know, you can throw a post up in 2 minutes. It's pretty easy. You've got a picture, you got a graphic, you put in a, you know, quirky little saying, and that's a post. But if you do it thoughtfully, you can increase your audience and people will remember that. People will remember that they're not frustrated when they open up your posts. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I love to discuss this stuff. It's especially finding those quirks and those little sort of fun hashtags is pretty interesting.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just have a couple more remarks before we pass it back over to Hannah. I did want to just remind everybody that if you do track the time and steps that you or someone in your office takes to make our resources accessible, you can report it during your civil rights review and have a more robust report for the upcoming audit. And you'll also be helping to make our digital resources more accessible to everyone. I did include in the list of links that I posted in the chat a link to a video that I'm not going to play here, but it's a short video worth watching of a user who is blind navigating the Penn State website using a screen reader. And although the website is accessible and the user is Louis Fontanez, an instructional developer for accessibility for Penn State, you'll see very quickly that it's still a challenge for him to navigate through that site to find the resources that he wants. And so if you guys have any other questions, we're happy to answer them, or we can just pass this back to Hannah.
Are there any questions specifically for Cindy and Lynn? And certainly this isn't your only time. I mean, if you want to shoot them an email or have a phone call conversation with them, I'm sure they're open to that. But any questions that come to top of mind right now? And Cindy and Lynn, could you email out those links that you shared? I put a few in my email that's going out at 4 o'clock, but I don't think I've captured all the ones that you shared.
Yes, definitely we can do that. And we'll also put it up with your recording of today's connections. It'll be on the website too. So we can have it right there with the recording.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I am going to, certainly open it wide now for questions from today's Extension Connections, whether to Cindy or Lynn or COVID related. But before we do that, I have one more slide and I'm going to share it because come on. Hold on just a second. This is one of the best things about vaccinations is you get to meet your new cousins. So this is my cousin William, who I got to meet last month. I was going to actually mess with you all and be like, look what I did while, in COVID when you didn't see me, but no, that would start too many rumors. But I was very excited and I just wanted to include baby William somehow in this Extension Connection. So it's a reminder that you have earned annual leave. It is summertime. Please take annual leave this summer. I know everybody says, but wait, we're too busy. All of the things, I get it. I would say the same thing, but we've got to make time to recharge our batteries and whatnot. So just remember to take some annual leave. So I'm going to stop sharing that, but isn't he the sweetest thing ever? So any other questions? I know Steve had one about internet, and we are willing to work with people. I feel like we're getting to the tail end of internet needs now as we're talking about returning to our offices and whatnot. But if you have internet needs, we've worked with many of you on them to try to help figure it out. And if we can do so, again, please reach out to Dennis. I'm assuring we're not trying to shut people out of, being able to do their work remotely and whatnot. So, but any other questions or thoughts before we adjourn this afternoon? I feel like it's the heat that just saps the energy out of folks. Again, I don't know how I worked in Florida for 20 years. With that being said, if anything comes to mind later on in the day or in the morning when it's cooler and people can think, please feel free to reach out. And again, just a reminder to be smart in the heat. Nobody needs to be a hero and get heat stroke and heat exhaustion and all those things. So just remember, drink plenty of fluids, find some shade, work when it's cool, and remember that we will be complaining about cold weather and snow and things like that soon enough. So we will enjoy these sunny days when we have them. If nothing else, I will be quiet for a second, see if anybody wants to shout out. No? If nothing else, then I hope everybody has a good rest of your day and a good week. I will be sending out, you'll be getting an email here shortly. And then my big email will come on Friday mornings now, unless anything else changes between now and then. So thank you all. I look forward to seeing you in another month.